So Nancy and
I thought we were going to see the committee.
Okay, welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today, we're going to be discussing the Medina Courthouse Joint Project. And today we have a whole of City Council here from the City of Medina, two commissioners, Mr. Miller, the judge, and Nancy Abbott from the Municipal Court. And this is just to give us a update on the design of the court, the elevations that have been prepared regarding the exterior of the court and how it will look from the square of Medina, and also just to give information to everybody of exactly where we are, what the benefits are of this combined project, and what are the facts related to the project associated with the existing buildings that are located on the square. So I don't know if I have to go around and introduce everybody, but maybe I'll just give it to Nancy and then we can go. Oh, you guys have to call a meeting first? Okay, sorry.
Colleen, I think you have to push the button on there to turn on the mic.
Probably bring in a little closer.
I'd like to call the joint city council commissioner meeting to order.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Nancy, the floor is yours.
great. Good to see all of you again. I'm Nancy Nozick from Branstetter Carroll Architects. Also with me is Monica Sumner from Branstetter Carroll Architects. We're going to give you an update on where we are with the design of the proposed courthouse. So we like to start off with what we know. So here are the things, the decisions that have been made to date and where we are in the plan for the building. 3 existing buildings on the square will remain. We've been going through the design process. We've been getting feedback from the community. As a result, the county and the city have both agreed that all 3 of the buildings on the square, the east side of the square, will remain. That includes the old courthouse, which is 99 Public Square, the 1969 courthouse that we all refer to it at 93 Public Square, as well as the Sturgis House or the former prosecutor's building, which is on the corner at 72 Public Square. There will be a new courthouse constructed behind these 3 buildings. So to the east, off of the square, behind those 3 buildings, in most of what is currently the parking lot that is behind. The parking garage will remain, and we will redo some surface parking at an entry at the south of the new building. In the new courthouse building, the following functions will be housed: the municipal clerk and municipal court, also the municipal, that was right, municipal clerk and municipal court, county clerk functions, Sally Port with hold areas for in custody persons coming to the court, common pleas court, the domestic relations court, and juvenile and probate courts along with juvenile probation. That's all in new construction. We're also doing some renovation to the old county courthouse, which is the one on the northeast side of the square, 99 Public Square. It will be renovated to include the municipal adult probation and the county adult probation. So we are utilizing the 2 primary floors of that building for those functions. It will be conveyed, those 2 buildings will be connected. So those functions will be connected to the new courthouse, and that will be renovated. The law library is going to remain where it is in the 1969 building. So we're not touching that. That allows it to have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week access because it will not be part of the secured courthouse. The 1969 building will become a county building that is not secured, having the court security, so that they can maintain the access that they desire. Included in the plan for the new courthouse is an anticipation for future growth. That is part of the impetus for this project, as well as the safety and security of all the persons in the building. Part of that future growth, we are including a second courtroom for municipal court, a third courtroom for common pleas, a separate courtroom for the probate court. Currently, juvenile and probate share a courtroom. We will have 2 separate courtrooms, and a second domestic relations courtroom. The total project renovation and new construction is just under 130,000 square feet. Our current cost estimates are at $38 million. Where we are in the process of review, we have been meeting with the different judges and clerks and probation officers for the past year and a half. Our most recent round of meetings was held in the middle of August. And we have met with each of the departments, many of these more than one time. I just put one date on the plan here, going back and forth, getting feedback, revising plans, feeding it back to them, and having another review. So we have current reviews and correspondence with each of the court occupants. The site plan itself, so what we're looking at here is a site plan. It's an overhead view. The old courthouse to remain on the top left corner here. The 1969 courthouse to remain just below it, the east side of the square, and then the Sturgis house at the bottom that are all to remain. Behind that is the footprint of the new courthouse. Now we've color-coded this. The yellow is both the new courthouse and the renovated old courthouse, just to show the footprint that the county and municipal courts will occupy. The other 2 buildings, Sturgis House in 1969, are county buildings that will be operated by the county and not part of the courthouse itself. We will develop an entry to the new courthouse from the south. So here, so there will be some handicap access from the south to enter the new courthouse. And there is also going to be a handicap access from the parking garage over to the new courthouse. And then we are creating a handicapped access sidewalk to the Sturgis house as well. To enter the 1969 courthouse building that is remaining, from this side, you will enter into the new courthouse building. To enter that building, you don't have to go through security, but you will come through the new main lobby to get into that building, or you can enter it from the square. We're going to briefly go through the plans, and Monica is going to give you some overview of the benefits of the plan.
So just as a reminder, when we started this project, there were some strict goals that we needed to adhere to. The main goal was to allow in-custody persons to enter the building without being seen by the general public and without crossing paths of the judiciary. And so we've done that. And Nancy's going to go through the plans in just a minute, but just to be mindful of that, because we haven't talked about that in such a very long time. So the benefit of that is going to be that the public can come into the building, conduct their business in the public corridors and public lobby spaces. And they will be separate from those persons coming to court from a local jail facility. They'll also be separate from judicial staff. All 3 parties come together in the courtroom in a safe environment, in a controlled environment. So judges, support staff, clerks, and their staff will be in the back of the building. The courts are all in the middle with in-custody access, and then public is to the front of the building. So we've been able to achieve this, this design concept that is prevalent in modern courts, and we're very proud of that. The budget we've adhered to, as Nancy's going to spend a little more time talking about, all within the parameters of that design goal of keeping all the entities distinct and separate and safe in the building. Other things that we've been able to achieve with the design is gaining the efficiencies that were first set forth in terms of sharing public circulation spaces, in-custody elevators and holding spaces, the sharing of public restrooms, security checkpoints, and the Sally Port is shared. So we have achieved good efficiencies that had the 2 entities, municipal court and county court, been constructing buildings of their own independently of one another, these things would have been built by each and would have been duplicated. So the coming together of the city and the county, we believe will pay off by these building efficiencies. And speaking of efficiencies, we also are in the middle of evaluating for building systems. And there are also great efficiencies to be had just in the modern design of energy efficient systems, LED lighting, and those kinds of things, which again, had the buildings been separate, both entities would have been providing that. And now that system can be shared. Nancy is going to look over the plan for us now in more detail. That was just overview, so we don't lose sight of what we were trying to achieve in our big broad brush goals.
Do I have to talk into this or can I move and point?
I think if by talking into that, they can hear it through the TV, right? So
Okay,
is she
I will-
is that a mobile mic? Can she move that around with her or no?
he taped it down.
Oh,
That's all
that's
right. I'll
all
make it
right.
work. I'll make it work.
Okay.
That's why things are color coded. So I will speak to color coding. So the building is 5 floors. We ended up with a design that is 5 floors of building to make each of the courtroom and court functions for the various courts, common pleas, domestic relations, juvenile probate, to function the best so that they can be self-contained. It also will help when a visitor is coming to know, oh, I have to go to this floor for this particular court. So we have 5 floors. You enter at the first floor, which is basically the level of the main entry currently from the parking lot into the 1969 building. It's down a little bit. If you go to the court, you go slope down a little bit to get to that door. So our building is going to sit down in that is where the existing parking lot is, but that's basically a first floor and grade entrance. At the bottom of this plan in that gray color, there will be an entry into the building with a weather vestibule, we call it, where you come in one set of doors and you go through another set. There will be a set of doors to your left that if you are going to the 1969 building, you go through those doors and there's a connector that gets you into the 1969 building. Oh, good, Carol Merrill. There you go.
Okay.
Point, yeah. If you are coming to the court, you proceed straight through the next set of double doors to the secure access point. Right down there, where we have the secure access, we have enough space to have 2 lines of entry if necessary. Right now, there's just one and there's no place to line up and you stand out in the rain or the snow if there's a line getting into court. We also have an office immediately adjacent to that is for the sheriffs to be able to monitor that function of the people that are working there. So you enter the building, you have a nice public lobby and adjacent public elevators. We anticipate there may be kiosks or some kind of wayfinding that will happen at that location, so you will know what floor you need to go to in the building. At this level, the blue area that is shown is county clerk archives and records. So oftentimes people are coming to view title books or archives. There are a customer window there and a room that you can go into to view that material, and all the material is stored right there at that floor so that function can take place. On each floor, the public elevators are in the exact same place. Next to them are a set of public restrooms on each floor in the same location. On this floor, this first floor, the kind of tannish ochre color, whatever that is, those are some other shared spaces. Those are building support functions. There is a break room on this level that anyone in the building can utilize. There are staff restrooms that are right there that stack all the way up. So every floor has staff restrooms in the same location. There are additional storage areas on this floor for the different courts upstairs that have long-term storage needs. They don't need to access every day. They can get to down here. As we move north on the plan, the big yellow section is the Sallyport and in-custody hold areas. So when people are coming to court from the jails, they are brought to the court from the public enforcement, police officers, sheriff, whoever is going to bring them for whatever court they're coming to. They are dropped off. We have separate hold areas for females, for juveniles, and for male adults. That is required by the Ohio Supreme Court to keep all of those people separate. And it is designed in such a way that when they are ready to go up to court, they are escorted to the in-custody elevator and up to court. They can't go anywhere else in the building. They can get to that in-custody elevator. It goes to the courtrooms, back down and out. And we have the ability to segregate those three users. Also on this level, we have some storage for the municipal court. Currently, they have some high density files and some other files over there. So we have space on this level for their storage needs as well. In the back of the building, it'll look better on the upper floors, but we have a staff entrance. So the staff can come in a separate entrance to the building. It is up to the courts to decide who's allowed to use that entrance and who they want to go through security. That will be a secure door with a key card access. So only the people who are approved to go through that door can utilize it. But at that location, there is a stair that goes all the way up the building, and there's a staff elevator. So that staff elevator goes to each floor so that the staff can enter and get up to the building. And as Monica mentioned, the left side of this plan is always public circulation. The right side of the plan is always staff circulation, and the in custody only come up that yellow elevator all the way up to the courtrooms. The way the plans have developed, we don't need functionally the space that is in the basement right now of the old courthouse. That is currently where county adult probation is. They're going to be moving upstairs. So those spaces will probably be cleaned out a little bit and just reserved for any future storage that might need to happen, but no actual construction activities need to happen on that floor. Oh, I get to go to the next slide. As we move up the building, they're simpler as we get up the building. Again, in the bottom corner, we have the public elevators that bring you up. On this floor, we have county clerk. So this whole big lobby down at the bottom is the county clerk, both the criminal windows and the civil windows, and all of their offices and functions are in that blue area. All of the orange is municipal court and municipal probation. So all of that is on one floor. There are 2 courtrooms and a hearing room. Municipal clerk. There are spaces for both prosecutor and defenders to have offices here. Municipal probation is in the old courthouse primarily. That is renovated to meet their needs, but then they are very close again to the municipal court. Then surrounding kind of on the perimeter are all of the judges' offices, the support staff, the bailiffs. Everyone is located so that they are in close proximity to the court. And then those in custody elevator, Monica will point to, is right there, brings you up so you have access into the courtrooms and across a short hall to get into the hearing room as well, if necessary. Let's go. Oh, that's me. I have control. The next floor up is common pleas. There are currently 2 common pleas courtrooms. There are 2 common pleas judges. We are anticipating in the future the addition of a 3rd judge and a 3rd courtroom. In order to keep this building as tight and efficient as possible, we have 2 common pleas courtrooms on this floor. We have a 3rd one on the next floor up. That also gives you a little bit of flexibility. If that courtroom wants to be used for other functions, in the meantime, we have some flexibility for that. But here we end up on the 3rd floor. There are 2 large common pleas courtrooms. There are 4 hearing rooms. There are jury rooms and jury restrooms adjacent to each of the courtrooms, and all of the judicial staff functions in that light green area. The dark green that's in the old courthouse is the county adult probation. So that is immediately adjacent to the common pleas courtrooms and the common pleas judges, and that will occur in that location. There are 2 kind of yellow boxes here. Those are larger meeting rooms. If we need to do jury call in the future. We have a large space where we can do that. If the probation offices, whether they're municipal probation or county probation, want to have some kind of an education or a session where they need a larger room, we have 2 different sizes of larger rooms on this floor that could be used by anyone in the building until the day comes when it gets assigned for some other use. But at this point in time, we have some nice flexibility with that for those functions. The next floor up is domestic relations court and that third common pleas courtroom I talked about. So again, the light green is common pleas. The purple in the rest of the space is domestic relations. We have 2 full-size domestic relations courtrooms. We have 5 domestic relations hearing rooms. The blue in the center is the clerk. The county clerk supports domestic relations court, but it's different staff. So that's why we have it colored a little differently so that everyone can understand the space that they occupy. Domestic relations also has their own administrative staff and files that are also included on this floor. So again, public is on the left and staff is on the right. Finally, on the top floor, we have juvenile court and probate court, as well as juvenile probation. So at the bottom, the muted purple color is probate court. And the probate courtroom is down in the corner. We've also labeled it as a ceremonial courtroom. There are weddings that take place. There are adoptions that take place. And they want to have it's a different kind of a courtroom. Good things happen in this courtroom. So we have one courtroom that can serve that function as well as the probate court. Those functions do not need to be adjacent to the in-custody elevator because the people attending those courts are not coming from the jails. So we have a special place for that, as well as the hearing rooms associated with probate and the support staff. The bright purple in the middle is all juvenile courtroom, hearing rooms, clerks, support staff, and all of that. And then at the top, the other muted purple color is juvenile probation. There's a lot of overlap with the probation officers going to court, so we wanted to keep those together. There's also a separation in the hallway so that probate court and juvenile court is separate. So the juveniles, when they come, they can be waiting up in the juvenile probation area, again, separate from any adults that might be in the building. I didn't point it out, at domestic relations court, we have a similar thing between common pleas and domestic relations. So those waiting areas can be separate. Is there anything I missed, Monica? So to summarize, we have some views here of what the court will look like from the square. We have the existing old courthouse. We have the existing 1969 courthouse. We have the existing Sturgis building with the new courthouse behind. We have a few different views here from the square, whether it's right at the street from the square or back behind the square or at the corner. So you will see the top of this building back behind, and our efforts are to treat it so that it looks like it's almost part of the 1969 building as well. But again, what we have in this project is just under 15,000 square feet of renovation, little over 114,000 square feet of new construction for a total of 129,300. I said 130, rounded up a little bit. The $38 million construction cost is divided between the county and the city, 21% to 79 county court and 21% municipal court. That is based on the usage within the building. So we've been running numbers consistently on the spaces and how they are allocated. And the way the layout of the whole program is right now, 79% of the building will be used for the county court, 21% will be used for municipal court. And at this point in time, that's how they are separating the costs of the building. So that leaves $30 million for the county and $8 million for the city.
Nancy, can you explain a little
That's
bit
it.
about the estimate, how you
Sure.
came up with that 38 million? I mean, it just wasn't pulled out of the air.
No, as you know, the county has hired a construction manager at risk. Their role on this project is to get in early, work with us, They review our plans. They put detailed estimates together on our plans. They give us advice and recommendations to help from a constructability standpoint or a cost standpoint as we work through the design. So they have done estimates on the work that we have done so far. The estimates are very detailed, even though we're at a fairly early stage. They assume certain percentage of windows. They assume exterior brick. The interior finishes that we have, what we anticipate, we've given them a list of that. So it's not just an overall square foot number, it's an actual detailed breakdown of assumption of cost. They are getting ready to do that another time. They've done probably about an initial estimate and 3 or 4 revisions as we've been tweaking the plans. The square footage is the same as it was last time. It was a $38 million estimate. However, we have actually simplified the exterior of the building since we are leaving the 1969 building in place. So we feel we should definitely be in range with this next estimate. So we're fairly confident. If it comes in and it's not, we put our pencils back down and we tweak what happens inside this building to make sure that we get back down to that $38 million number. When we go out, so I know you're itching. I have more to say. When they do their estimates, they actually reach out to contractors. They'll reach out to a heating contractor and share with them the plans and get feedback from them. So they're not just making up these numbers, they're getting actual numbers. When we're at a point for these to go out to bid, Gilbane, the construction manager at Risk, will put the bid packages together, send them out, vet all of those costs. And when they come back, they will really determine if we're on budget or under budget. The construction climate is really goofy right now, as everything is. Large projects right now are coming in under budget. Small projects are coming in over budget. This is a large project. So our goal is to keep this process moving so we can get this out for bid as soon as we can to take advantage of some of the lower numbers that we're seeing currently.
That was part of my question, was that when you say moving the project forward, what is kind of the goal timeline of getting the construction documents completed and then issuing the RFPs for the bids? What's the goal of that?
Well, we're actually looking at breaking this up, something that's fairly commonly done, and doing an early foundations package. So when we build this building, we have the footprint, we got to dig down, we got to pour foundations and get the steel structure up. Once the footprint is set and the foundation design is set, we can go ahead and get that started. So our schedule has that an early foundations package somewhere around March, so that we can get that out and start getting the site work and the work underground started while we button up the fine tunings of some of the things that go inside the building. And then we will follow up probably May or June with the final bid package for the rest of the building. And at that point in time, they should be in the ground, starting with the foundation, as we then roll out the rest of the package.
And it is my understanding that the estimated cost of $38 million in the detail sheets includes a contingency
Yes, it does.
built into it. And is that contingency, was that 5 or 10%?
Oh, you're going to ask me a question I wasn't prepared to answer?
Well, anyway, there's a
There's
contingency.
contingency.
There's a
It might
built-in amount of
be. It
money.
might be 5. It usually starts higher and we bring it down. So it might be 10 now. As we get further along, they do estimates periodically. They start reducing that as we get more detailed plans. When we go out for bid, we still keep an owner's contingency because you don't know, something might come up. But there's kind of a design contingency that we maintain until those documents are absolutely complete. And then that contingency comes off. So that is built in there.
And then the final question to keep going on with the construction of the project, what is the estimated time from start to finish?
Oh, man.
Is it like a year, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years?
18 to 24. Yeah. Again, we're trying to get the foundations in first, an early package to help move that forward. So what we will do is the foundations will go in. They'll probably do another package that's kind of the superstructure. That's the steel and basically the sequence of how it gets built. So if they can get some things out there earlier, they will, to keep the project moving.
And just so the people understand, during the time of the construction, the existing courts will still be usable.
Yes, that is the reason that the county really pushed in this direction last December, January, was in order to maintain the operation of the courts. So this will really be a two-phase project. The new construction is phase one. The renovation that needs to happen in the old courthouse, those people need to move in order to do that renovation. So there's going to be a little leapfrogging at the end with that renovation piece. But we will have a phase one that is the new building, and then we'll do probably a phase 2A and phase 2B of renovation in the old courthouse.
I guess my point of making that point was that, in speaking with Mr. Miller before, if they had to move the current court functions off the square, the cost of relocating, doing a build out, getting the security was around $2 million, I believe it was.
Correct.
Probably in excess of that.
So, I mean, there's a savings there that I think people need to understand about doing this project and building behind the current facilities. There's no need to move everybody out, relocate, and move everybody back.
Right.
So there's a savings there of money associated with the construction process.
And we're working with Gilbane to make sure that we make.
But if we are not able to go forward with the project, it appears that we will be taken out of the project. And I guess the architects explain a little bit about how that would happen. I think that the county, of course, is still, and they could answer, I guess, move forward with the project, but the city would not be involved. So is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. The county still intends to move forward with the project. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if in fact the vote is yes, and the city cannot move forward with its share, the county intends to finance its share and to proceed with construction, and we will simply lop off a floor.
We believe we can do that by shifting some. There's going to be some shifting that will have to happen, but the programmed space for the city would be removed from the project, and we would bring down some of the functions from the upper floors to that floor.
Hope that answers the question. Is there another question?
Yeah, Daniel Maynard had here's the questions here. Since the Supreme Court is encouraging and even funding technology to eliminate in-person appearances, is this building really designed for the future? Do we need all the space at the county? How much is the building per square foot? Why would we need a ceremonial courtroom?
I guess if you could answer the technology part of it, we talked a little bit about that earlier today, and that's a great question. And I think that the answer is yes, but I guess if you want to explain a little bit more.
You want to answer that one? Okay, fine. Yeah. So yes, there's a lot of technology. It will be incorporated into this building. However, we still see the need for courtrooms and judges to serve those functions. So the increased technology in the future doesn't completely eliminate the need for the courtrooms. They have added technology in courtrooms, how long ago? Remote testimony and things like that. Yeah, for the past 20 years. And the needs for the courtrooms are still there. Judge, I don't know if you have any other elaboration on that. Sorry, I didn't want to throw you on the spot, but.
No, that's fine. At least from our perspective, the Supreme Court guidelines for courtrooms require a jury courtroom for every judge. We did an analysis of our caseload and determined that we could get away with adding a second non-jury courtroom and deal with the demand that we have for jury court trials using one jury courtroom. So we're going to enjoy some economic efficiencies of having our courtrooms close together in a way that we can handle the scheduling of trials administratively without having to double up on the space. So, to the extent that adds to the efficiencies of this operation, that's how it's going to work for us.
So some of the other questions, the square foot cost, I just ran the numbers here. From a gross standpoint, it's $292 a square foot. We had a meeting before this meeting with the county and the city talking about the level of expectation of finish in this building. And it's really kind of a mid-level. This has to be a strong, durable, cleanable, easy to maintain building. So we want to use quality materials for that purpose, but we don't want to go overboard and spend money where it doesn't need to be spent. So that just under $300 a square foot is a really good number for a county courthouse structure. And we feel that we are on target for that. The other question that Mr. Maynard asked was about the ceremonial courtroom. Again, that's actually the future probate courtroom. They're anticipating, the Judge Dunn is anticipating having a separate juvenile judge to probate judge. So we're building that courtroom to plan for the future. We're calling it a ceremonial courtroom so that it can also serve those other kind of functions. Yeah, and we can have visiting judges and again, the adoptions and things that need that kind of a space. Technically, it is in the program as a probate courtroom. We just see an opportunity to have some flexibility of use in that space. I think I covered all that.
Hey, Nancy, I want to make sure that it's clear that when you say that you met with the city and the county prior to this meeting, you met with me and with Councilman Coyne.
Yes. We met with Scott Miller and Council President Coyne to review that stuff.
Is there any other questions from Facebook back there?
No more.
That's it? Okay, I guess we can go around and get the input. I just wanted to add one thing before we started because there was a clarification regarding the cost of construction. I just want to clarify for everybody that the city's cost of construction is estimated to be $8 million at the current time. $4.3 million of that has been saved up through the Special Projects Fund that was implemented by the municipal court, I would say early 2000s, if not 2001. So that money has been saved up. The additional money that is going to come from the city of Medina. We saved up money in our capital projects fund itself. And the payback of some of that money will be through the reimplementation of the court special project fund, which I talked to Judge Werner earlier this week. And in order to show that our unification, we want to move forward with this project, I think the judge is going to reimplement that fund hopefully October 1st. So show that we want to collect that money to get things moving. So I think everybody has to understand the city's been saving for this for 20 years. And this is our fourth go around for a court. This is not our first. We started, one I think was down where Castle Noel is located. We talked about a court down there and that was in excess of 10 million. We decided not to do it. We decided probably to do next to City Hall here in 2016. And that cost was $9.3 million. We decided not to do it. And then we tried to look at renovating the court across the street and adding on to it and trying to figure out how to do that. And then we were up to about $7 million. And plus there was a disruption in service because it's kind of difficult to add on to a building at the entrance and still hold court functions in there. So we decided not to do it. And we came full circle because we talked about this many, many years ago in 2008 to try to do a joint project. We were a little early. The county wasn't really ready at that time, but now we're, everything aligned up and it seems to work out that we can both save money for the residents of both the county and the city and also realize efficiencies through the future. So I think, everything is working out the way we hoped it would work out to provide a better service for the community at a lower cost, which is very important. But Mr. Hudson, do you have any comments?
Yeah. Thank you, John. When we set out on this project, one of the things that the commissioners all agreed on is that we would save and preserve the 1840 section of this courthouse. That has never been an issue with the commissioners. We always intended to preserve that section. We discussed and had plans to tear down the sections behind that and decided that we could save and preserve that. And I think since the last joint meeting, I think the commissioner's position at that time was that we were going to tear down the 1969 part of the courthouse. Since then, the commissioners have decided to keep the 1969 portion of the courthouse. So in effect, the entire block will be preserved and the entire courthouse as it exists today will be saved. We are doing that for a number of reasons. As Mr. Coyne explained, there is a savings by not having to move the court temporarily off the square. And not only the monetary aspect of that, but the logistical aspect of it, and trying to find a place, retrofit a place, move everybody out, and then move everyone back was a significant endeavor if we had to do that. So I hope the city is pleased that we have decided to keep the entirety of the courthouse. And I think that the elevations, although not totally done and refined, are aesthetically pleasing and something that the county will continue to work with folks to get into an acceptable and a complementary fashion for the city.
Thank you. Mrs. Geisman, do you have anything to add, or?
Bill adequately explained our process of looking at keeping the entire building. And that was actually the original desire way back in 2008 when we were looking at it, to keep the whole thing, keep the people in there working and to build behind it. So it's the same concept.
And I think there's been questions that we talked about. Once everybody moves out of the 69 building, there's still a function of that building because there's still other government functions throughout the county that may be able to be located in that building. And I don't know if you talked about that. We talked about that just a little bit with Mr. Miller.
So currently we have the professional building on East Washington Street or West Washington Street. And in that building, we have the Educational Service Center. We have the Ohio State Extension Office, mediation. So there are different, we want to eventually empty that building out and sell it so it can be used for commercial use. And we can move those agencies from 120 West Washington to the 69 courthouse. So I think there's definitely room there for them. So those, just off the top of my head and thinking ahead, 3 or 4 years, I can see those agencies moving in, and there are possibly other agencies that we could move into that location.
Thank you. Commissioner Swedek, you have anything to add?
I would just like to say that the plans will be really wonderful for not only our community, but our employees that work there every day. It came in under budget from some of the original numbers that we first proposed. We are not asking residents for any additional tax dollars to pay for this. And I really feel in the plan that the city and the county has now agreed to that we've already saved the courthouse. And I hope the community understands that.
Thank you. Mrs. Abbott, you have any comments?
I'm just excited that this is moving forward. Since I think there's been more than 4 plans, and I'm glad. I think this one's going to stick, and I think it's going to serve both the county courts as well as the municipal courts well into the future.
Judge Werner? And also, just so everybody understands, they're probably wondering, well, how are we going to work together? There's going to be an agreement, of course, between the county and the city that's going to outline the ongoing costs. Because if you remember, the sharing of this and the efficiencies are generated from, the city has 21% of the building, the county has 79%, and maintaining the building going forward, that's how the costs will be split up. So hopefully that'll be more cost effective than each party maintaining their own building separately. I mean, that would be the goal. And we believe that would be the case. Of course, initially it's a new building. There shouldn't be much maintenance at all. But as time goes on, of course, there will be maintenance, and we can plan for that. And people have to understand, we're just not going to have an agreement. I think we've been talking about having reserve funds to plan for capital replacements and things of that type, that we make sure that the money's available 20 years down the road, so we don't have to do anything by increasing taxes for the residents. So hopefully that'll be part of the goal. But I guess I'll go around council and ask, maybe we can start here with Mrs. Hazeltine. Do you?
Oh, of course, you got to make me go first.
Well, I'll go down the line.
All right, I'll start. Number one, I'm very excited about the project. Thank you so much to everyone in this room for all of the hard work, especially those of you that have been in it. I don't want to age anyone, but much longer than I possibly may have been alive in some cases, at least half my age. I've been involved in trying to get this off the ground. So I understand what an amazing thing this is to get the county, the community court, the city, everybody together. It has been a very long process, and I am very excited. I'm not saying it's because I'm on council now, but just saying. But I am very excited about the project. I hope that we are able to move forward with it. Having been married in the courthouse, in the community court by Judge Chase, I like the fact that you have future plans to use that as a probate court. And in the meantime, it will be a ceremonial court. That's very exciting to me, as adoptions and weddings are very important things that need to be celebrated. And I remember my own wedding in Judge Chase's courtroom. And although it was wonderful, it would have been nice to have a nice ceremonial courtroom for that occasion. But, I am 100% satisfied with all of the hard work that has gone into this. And I genuinely hope that we can go forward with it.
Thank you. Mr. Simpson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank, again, parrot what Just said. Thank everybody that's in this room that's been involved, the commissioners. It's been outstanding working with you. My hope and prayers is that after November that we will be able to continue this relationship. I just want to say I have been here for 17 years of the 20 years that we've been talking about don't get smart. 17 of the 20 years we've been talking about the courthouse, and it's as I mentioned before, Judge Chase was always good to work with. Judge Warner, it's been really great working with you and Nancy, and I'm just excited to see this project moving forward. I'm glad that we're getting the facts out there that the courthouse has already been saved, that this financially is going to benefit both the county and the city residents. And my hope and prayers is that after November that the city will be able to give you a guarantee that we're going to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shields.
Really quick, I won't go. I do appreciate everybody's work. I love it. I really am very impressed with all the plans and how well this has come together. Want to thank the county, because the number one thing I had people comment to me about was keeping the east side of the square looking the same. And we've been able to accomplish that with the help of the county here. So I really appreciate that. That will make a lot of people, I had more people concerned about that than any other part of this project. And that takes care of that issue. The law library, as a user of the law library, I love that it's staying in the same spot. And I love that there's access 24 hours. That's very helpful for the legal profession. And the other thing, I didn't think about it till now, but as a person who stood outside in the rain and the snow waiting to get in, I love the lobby idea. That is a really great perk for the public. That will be much appreciated. So thanks for thinking of that. But just an overall great job. I'm really excited for this, and good for the community, good for the taxpayers. Thank you.
I don't consider that a perk. I consider it a basic necessity. So hopefully we're providing what you should have had all along.
Thanks, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, let me say this first. From the outside, the years that this has taken have clearly may appear to have been somewhat of a tortuous process. But I was thinking earlier tonight that when you really drill down and think about it, it appears to me there were 16 independently elected officials involved in reaching this agreement. And these are 16 individually elected officials with cross constituencies and clearly separate responsibilities that now have joined together, and that number of elected officials coming to an agreement is got to be quite an achievement. And also clearly it is how government works best, when government works together and cooperatively. And my opinion of being in this part of the process is that we reach this agreement through discussion, through debate, and through compromise, because clearly the plan didn't start this way, but as it evolved, as we had the discussions, we were we were able to arrive at this. And anybody who's watching this tonight, listen, if you are conflicted about the issue, if you're not sure what you think about the issue, take into consideration the things that the President of Council has said, that the commissioners have said tonight about the savings, about the planning, about the ability to pull this project off without demolition that would have had a serious impact on the economy of the square, without the enormous costs to the county of moving these courthouses and to the city alone for having to move the municipal court. If you think about those things, I wouldn't support this project if it was not good for the historic district, if it wasn't good for the functionality of the courts, and if it wasn't good for the city financially. And I do support the project. We came through an entire process over these years to come up with a really workable, smart, financially doable, and functional way to go forward. And progress isn't either good, progress isn't fixed as good, and progress isn't fixed as bad. Progress is good if you plan right, execute, and then take care. And I believe that's where we are with this project. We are in the position now to execute. And I am determined that we will come out of this, and in the future, people will look back at this and say, we did the right thing. It was good for the county. It was good for the city. We set a good example of what you can do as elected officials if you're willing to take the time, and clearly we have, and you're willing to wade into all the different issues and details, things you agree with and don't agree with, and work it out. And we did do that. I think this will be looked at as quite an accomplishment by other communities and other counties in the state. Glad to be a part of it. Appreciate everyone who pitched in, listened, and brought us to this spot. And we will continue to work together and get this project off the ground and get going. And we're going to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Rose.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I would like to echo everybody's thanks to everybody who's worked so hard on this, putting it together. Too many times government officials are accused of not working together, wasting money. And to echo what Mr. Lamb said, we blew that apart here with the number of people we brought together to come to something that is workable, that is providing value to the taxpayers. Okay, not only are we saving money, not only did we save historic buildings, but we're providing additional value to the community. And this is something that cannot be overlooked in the potential savings in tax dollars down the road for maintenance, et cetera, but also the tax dollars that it will bring in additional employment into the city and things like that. This is a win-win-win situation, and I fully support this. And in this project, 127%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heffinger.
Big number.
Just getting to the point where we're repeating each other, but I do want to thank everybody in this room because it's been such a long process, and then a lot of ideas were brought to the table. So there's a lot of listening here, and I think we came out with some great results. And I just hope collectively we can also help the community here in Medina hear what it is that we're offering them, because again, there's a lot of value to this, and I think it's a great addition to the city.
Thank you. And just to follow up, I think it's clear, commissioners, that you can see that we're all on the same page in the city here with respect to moving forward with the project, including the judge and Nancy also on board with the structure of the municipal court. So we would like to move forward. The only thing I would like to say to people, as residents of the city of Medina, is be an informed voter. I think if you have any questions on anything related to the courthouse or the combined project with the courthouse, either contact any member of council, you can contact the commissioners, you can contact the mayor, contact the judge, contact whomever you'd like or whomever you trust to get information from. Because I think the most damaging thing is to go in and vote and not understand what you're voting for. You can vote either way you want, but if you're not an informed voter, I think that's a tragedy. If you know the facts and you want to vote one way or the other, that's up to you. That's fine. But I think it's important that you understand what the facts are before you go in and vote, because it's important to understand what's happening here in Medina. This project is not only an important project to show collaboration between the county and the city, it's a project on the square, and we've been working very hard in the city of Medina to make sure the square remains vital and lasts the test of time. There was a direction that the square could have taken many years ago. It could have either been starting to be depleted with less tenants on the square, less people coming to the square. It could have been a desolate place. But we took a lot of action to make sure that we made the square a viable place for not only business, but a place for meeting and a place for government activities to take place. And this courthouse will ensure that at least on the east side of the square, this will be a long-lasting venture that will provide many benefits to the square and the merchants around the square for the future. So it's very important that this project occur, because I think it shows the test of time, and it shows that we are one of the few counties in the state of Ohio that are able to collaborate together and do projects collectively, because there's not many out there that do that. And I think we all understand what the benefit this is to all of the constituents and how much money this can save to the constituents. And I think our job is to make sure we provide a product that is usable and financially feasible. And I think we've accomplished that. So I want to applaud everybody for their efforts. And I think this could be a long-lasting project once completed, that'll be a very success to everybody. Is there anybody else that has Facebook? Anything else that came up or no?
Yes.
Okay.
This is why everyone else should have talked first, because nobody repeated my bad joke, just all the good things I said.
So John,
Yes.
if I may, the county intends to continue on with the design process. So over the course of the next 30 days until the counties, until the cities vote, we would like to keep the project moving. And I think Branstetter and Carroll is committed to doing that. I guess I would, and from what everybody said, there's some affirmation that the city would like to move forward with that. And are you okay with the 79-21 split? Should we start working on the agreement to solidify that? Because we want to keep the timeline as tight as possible and get on to the design process.
I think that,
Understanding the city may have to pull out.
I think the answer is yes, we want to keep moving forward with the 79-29 split. It may be difficult for council to dedicate.
So the city's agreeing to pay 29%?
I'm sorry, 21, right? I'm sorry. Hey,
Thank you. That's very generous.
wait, something's wrong with my mic.
21,
I think
21,
my
John.
mic broke down here a little bit. I'm sorry, 2179.
Cool.
Something happened there. I don't know what it was, but I don't know if we can commit funds. That's the only question. We'd like to
I
move
understand.
forward, and if we can move forward under that guise, I think there's 40 days before the election. That's assuming we know on the election day, and we may not know. So, but hopefully we'll know shortly thereafter what the vote is, because I don't know about the mail-in voting, how long it takes to count it. But I think we're all in agreement that we would like the project to move forward, but we do have to respect the vote of the constituents and give them the opportunity, since there is a ballot issue, to answer that question.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. We got Mary Rose asking, how is security shared between two law enforcement jurisdictions, and how is the operational cost shared? Also, are there parking user studies of the municipal and county courts? Finally, how do operations continue on a construction site?
Wow, that's one question with 27 subparts, but we can answer that. I guess the first question, Mr. Hudson, if you can answer regarding the, what was the first question?
How is security going to be handled?
yes.
And the county sheriff will continue to provide the security for the facility. If you have, or the city has specific security needs inside its own space, then it can obviously take care of that. And again, I would just consider that part of the operating costs, and we'll have to decide what is specific to the function of the building and what gets divided and what is separate for our operations and your operations.
So the question is, we don't really have to, as a city, have our own officer at the secured entrance. I mean, it could be an officer that's employed by the county, but of course, our share of those operations would be 21%. So we don't need to
Yes.
duplicate efforts. We're just paying for a portion of the cost with that service being provided. So I think that answers that question. And the 21, you asked a question about the 21-79 split.
That was, how the operational costs shared.
Yeah, that's how it's going to be shared. There's going to be an agreement between the county and the city that's going to divide the operational costs, develop a plan of saving money in, let's call it a rainy day fund. And that cost will be split 21% to the city, 79% to the county.
Parking user studies, are there any municipal and county courts?
I think the architects, I looked at those.
We did some casual studies. That wasn't a formal study, but we have also counted the available parking at the current municipal court, and the available parking that's been at the county court, and done an assessment of all those numbers. So when we're looking at parking, we are looking at what is required for the number of both staff and users anticipated at that property at the east side of the square.
And you still have 70 left over. It can be from your
Don't
estimates.
hold me to that number.
Well, I mean, it's not
we
like,
are
it's not
we
like
are
five,
we
no.
are under what is, or we have more than what is required by code for the users that are going to be in all of those buildings. Now I say don't hold me to the 70 because I need to make sure that we're accounting for who the county may put back in the 69 building,
Correct.
but we're still on target.
Correct. And what was the last question?
John, I'd also point out that the county admin parking is right across the street.
Okay.
And there is a lot of parking that's available there.
Okay.
And the last part of it was, how do operations continue on construction site?
I think that was addressed a little bit, but the architects.
So the key to that is access to the building. The construction will be completely separate from the buildings that are currently being occupied. So providing safe and secure access into the courthouse building and also into the Sturgis House is something that the contractors are working on. Gil Bain is working on a plan for that. We will review that with the county and the city and make sure that we are able to maintain safe and secure access during construction. From the back of the building, there may be some noise occasionally. That's just, going to happen while you're under construction, but we will work through those things with contractors.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, she actually asked later, how will the bonds be repaid?
That's a county question.
So currently, the properties were, let me take this off. Properties were revalued last year. And so the county is receiving approximately 1.2 million, I think it is, in additional property taxes this year. Obviously, they're going to be general obligation bonds, so they're covered by property taxes. Sales tax continues to increase. We have additional money coming in from the Public Defender's Office to cover those costs. The expenses are down. We expect that, we have a fiber to the home project that is going to be taking place here in the next couple of years, which is going to eliminate $1.2 million in bond payments. We also have the social service levy, which is in place, which also alleviated a lot of expense, about $1.8 million in the general fund and expense. So we have the funds available to repay the bonds without having to increase taxes.
And also, I assume, just for clarification for the individual asking the question, usually it's going to be a 20-year bond. Is that what you're shooting for? Is that what it is?
No, no, most likely be a 30 to 35 year bond.
A 30 to 35-year bond?
Yeah.
So it'll be payment over time. And currently, just so everybody's aware, I believe interest rates are really...
They're extremely low right now, yes. I got information from our underwriter, and we're below 3%.
So below 3% over a 30, 35-year period. So the yearly debt service payment is estimated to
about
1.7 million.
Yeah.
So that's pretty reasonable.
Yes.
Okay.
And John, just to clarify, Mr. Miller, that bonds that he's talking about and the repayment of their cost is the county's share. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I don't want people to mistake that that's how the city is going to be paying for their $8 million shares for the residents that's going to be going to the polls this November. Thank
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Correct. Yes. The county will be issuing $30 to $32 million in bonds for this project.
Okay. Any other questions?
Might have been answered already. Sorry, I'm reading a bunch, but basically, Michael Stevens wants to know how you're going to pay for it. You say you want to increase taxes, please provide that information behind that statement.
We just did that.
And then some on YouTube here, he's saying, you didn't answer that question from before. If we haven't done any formal studies on this project, it may affect community, how are we ready to
What's that mean?
I guess I don't understand that question. I think the formal study is, I mean, the city's been working on this for 20 years, so we kind of understand the issue from a city's perspective. I think the county has been wrestling with the issues of the growth of the county and the use of the space in the current 1969 and 1841 building. So I think that they understand their space needs. I guess the question really comes down to, when is a great time to do it? I mean, if we wait longer, it could cost more money. If we didn't cooperate with each other, it could cost more money. So there's a lot of things that go into play. I guess there can always be questions about what aspect of this project do you not like, and everybody can come up with something, I would imagine. But I guess you have to look at the whole project globally and make a determination: is this project globally beneficial to the community? And if you answer that question and yes, well, we're going to move forward with it. And I hear a lot of questions coming out, and there are specific items that somebody may not like regarding the project, or there may be something that maybe, like, for example, the courtroom, this extra courtroom that is used for the general public for ceremonial purposes. Well, maybe somebody doesn't like that, but out of the entire project, if that's the only thing you don't like, I think that's pretty good, because the goal is to have a lot less things that you don't like, and compared to those things that you do like. And it seems like we have more things that everybody likes than dislikes.
Can I chime in there? Because I think that question may have been relating to the parking, that we haven't done a formal parking study. So what I will say is, as architects and engineers, we're required to design to the zoning code. So that's why we keep referencing that in terms of how many spaces we have. The challenge right now is doing a parking study right now isn't going to show you, no one's operating under normal conditions. What we can do is look at visitors to each of the courts, municipal court and county court, perhaps from 2019, to get the most accurate recent data on the kind of user flow that is happening. So we could gather up those numbers and do an analysis that way as well, just to make sure we're supporting the right number of parking spaces.
And again, purely on speculation, as time goes on and 10 years from now, it's going to be entirely different. I don't think we're going into a situation where, as time goes on, more people are going to be driving and there's going to be more need for parking. I think it's going to be just the opposite because of technology. So more people are going to be using technology and less people are going to be visiting the courts if possible. And as you know, judges change and as times change, the administration of justice will change. So I think people have to keep that in mind, because I think people are thinking about parking as, you know, hey, 10 years from now, there's not going to be enough parking. Well, the parking is going to change. I think it's not going to be more parking. There's going to be less parking 10 years from now, because I don't think the same number of people will be traveling the same way we travel today. But is there another question?
But John, I'd also add that the county is growing, and as our population grows, you know, any efficiencies that you may gain, I think will be used up in the system as we have more and more people that reside in Medina County.
No, understood. But I think hopefully technology always outpaces growth. So hopefully that'll stay the same in the near future.
Yeah, they're kind of piling in here.
We waited too long.
What additional positions is the courthouse creating? You keep referencing 8 million, but 21% may well be more than 8 million. Which is it? Those are two that I know I don't think it's come up. And then, just something to ask the sheriff about your security plan.
Well, I'll address the 8 million. I mean, 21%, 8 million. I mean, that's what the estimate has been coming in at. That's what the budgetary figure was given to the architects, and the Gilbane determining the cost of construction of the project has been saying that as it's currently designed, that number is at 8 million, a little less than 8 million. Matter of fact, 7,930,000. But we don't know that number for sure until you go out to bid. Nobody knows that number. So we are hopeful, based upon the history and the current status of the construction industry on large projects, that cost will be lower than that. We have no idea. We only can go with what is in existence out in the public currently, and that's where it's leading us. I don't know how you make a decision knowing an exact number, because you can never know that, because you have to bid it out. So that's a tough question to answer, and we only can go with what we were told or given as a design criteria to the architects and determine those costs of constructions. As far as the number of people at the court, I don't know if the commissioners would know that, because they're not in control of those numbers.
Exactly. We don't plan for the staffing in the individual courts. That's up to each individual judge. But I believe that the architects have been in touch with the sheriff and have discussed security plans and how security operations will function in the building.
Yeah, we have had meetings with representatives from the sheriff's office. We've asked about a security plan. They will not put a security plan in place until we're absolutely complete with the project. But we're having ongoing conversations, and I know Scott Miller has actually met with the future sheriff who is going to be taking over and has initiated conversations for that exact same reason. I will say to the number of people in the building, staff increases. When we design a building, we want to make sure we are flexible enough for the future. We don't want to build a whole lot of empty space or extra offices for people who aren't going to be there for 10 years. But we want to make sure there's a little bit of room for growth. So we feel like, we keep being pushed to make this thing smaller and smaller and keep it in budget. So we feel we are very, while we are allowing for future personnel to go with the expansion, it is not by any means extravagant, and we're trying to keep to the numbers that we feel are necessary to serve the functions in the building in the future.
And also a point of clarification with the design of the building is being designed as a steel structure with columns, so there will be an ability to reconfigure the internal spaces if need be to make more rooms, make some smaller to add more spaces. So we're not going to be locked into a rigid design plan. It's going to be able to be functional in the future to, move walls and redesign spaces as the needs change of both the municipal and the county courts. Was there another question in there?
I'm still turning those best I can. There's so many, but one that's come up a lot, I think you guys touched base on it, is basically what if the voters that are against this, I believe you said it would be actually a yes vote. And then it continues on to how come we put it off for 20 years? Why is it important to council now?
Because the cost is right, to be honest with you. And I think the functionality of the court and the size is right. I mean, our job as elected officials and representing the members of the city of Medina is to come up with a plan that is affordable and usable. And we've been trying to do that for years at a great place and saves money for the city long term. And this plan does all of those. The other plans, the location was not quite right. The moving of the court from its current facility wasn't right. There's all these different issues that just didn't all line up. And we felt it wasn't a time to just move forward with it. We were waiting for something to happen that would answer or fall in line with the majority of the needs that we wanted to accomplish. And I think this project does that. That's how we did it.
Mr. President, I'd like to add to that also. We've saved for this. Look at your own personal finances. When you want to buy a new house, a new car, you save a certain amount of money for a down payment or something like that. You don't go in and finance the whole thing. We've been able to save over half of the estimated cost for the city through the court's special projects fee. We've saved money in our special capital projects fund. So we're not just going out and spending the money. It took 20 years to get to this point here, to reiterate, but it's because we've been judicious in everything we've done in this decision-making process.
And again, the question you asked before, if there's a yes vote and we are out as a city, it's very clear that the county is moving forward with the project. By us being out doesn't mean the county is all of a sudden going to decide that they're not going to do the project. I think that's a misconception out there, is that if the city's out, the county's out. That is totally incorrect. So just be apprised that if the city's out, the county is still moving forward and the project will still continue, but the city will not be involved in it.
And the city will end up spending more money on something that we need down the road.
Most likely.
And Mr. President, just to add on, both Judge Warner and the previous municipal judge have been very gracious over this 20-year period because the need for either building a new or expanding the Muni Court is real. If you, I'm sure any of you could arrange a special time to take a tour of the Muni Court. either for Nancy's office or the judge's facilities. There is a definite need, and we've known that need for many years. There has been, discrepancies between the previous municipal judge, Judge Chase, on the number of square foot. And again, as Mr. Coyne said, the cost at that time to do it was it was cost prohibitive. But as some of my colleagues have said, if you vote yes and the city's not able to do a joint venture with the county, the need for the Muni Corps to either expand or have a new facility is still there. And we know just from the previous studies, as Judge Warner has brought up, the amount of money that we've spent on some of these previous studies shows that the need is there. The cost would be greater than or equal to what were in the past, and this is, again, several years in the past, of the amount of money that the city residents would, or the city would be putting in for the joint venture. So just keep in mind, if you vote yes on this issue, and as Mr. President Coyne said, you can vote any way you want. If you vote yes, it doesn't mean the need for the city's municipal court goes away. The county's still going to move forward with their $30 million share. And we believe that if we have to go another route for solving the municipal court's problems, it's going to cost us more than $8 million. And I'm not trying to say, oh, that's why you should vote for this or against this, but just the estimates, the 21% of the cost that we're paying is hopefully going to be a little bit less than $8 million. And keep in mind, if we don't get involved with the county, we're not going to be paying 21% of an operating cost. We'll be paying 100% of the operating cost. So again, I just can't thank the county enough for including this, and thank Judge Warner and his staff for the work that they've done with this also. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Lamb.
One thing why we're doing it now, I guess is a reasonable question. But if you look at the history that's been explained really in good detail tonight of where we've been and how we got here, I mean, the city, aside from working with the county, the city has done its due diligence in the extreme. One thing you left out when you were talking about what we have looked at was we also looked at the Masonic Temple, is whether we could convert that into a courthouse. In all the other areas that we looked, all the square feet we looked at, all the locations we looked at, and where we are now is really, it's like if we have baked a souffle, and now is a good time to do it because you can't reheat a souffle. And it's important that folks ask questions, but it is also important that you have some faith in in elected officials, the people you have elected to make these decisions, and take a hard look at how we got here, what time was put into it, how we got together and compromised and discussed and arrived at baking this project where we are now, and what you lose if in fact we don't go forward. And simply what you lose is you lose the efficiencies, you lose everything we put into it, all the time we put into it, all the money that we put into it, and we end up spending more money and we end up spending more time. And that's probably not a reasonable way to go. So I think it's important, as the President Council said, if you've got a question, ask somebody on council, ask the commissioners. Let's get answers to these questions and go forward, because we are saving the 1840s courthouse. We are saving the prosecutor's office. We are saving the 1969 courthouse. We are saving the eastern face of the square. We are building a building that will serve this community and the community at large into the future at a cost savings. Those are all good things. And as the President of Council said, if you look at one little thing you don't like, well, that maybe isn't a reason to derail the project. So, like I said, I think you need to have faith in the folks you elected, the time that's been put in, and the judgment that has, the good judgment, I think, that has gotten us to where we are now.
Any different questions, or is that all of them?
I mean, there's a ton, but I think that pretty much covers it.
The same. Okay. Well, is there any other questions here? Anybody have? Well, I appreciate all the efforts that the architects put in, and I think we're ready to move forward with the next phase of the project. We're hopeful that the result and the election comes out favorable for the city, and we hope we can continue this partnership. So with that said, the meeting is adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Budget.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we get to vote whether or not to adjourn?